What's up YouTube? Moto Moose here. Today I'm going to go over how to do an oil change on a 2005 CBR600RR. Oil change is pretty basic. It's going to be relatively the same for pretty much all sport bikes. And I say sport bikes because specifically it's about taking the fairings off. Naked bikes, you won't have to deal with that, and they'll have different parts blocking the oil filter and stuff like that. Cruisers, same thing. Dirt bikes, same, you know. So it's all oil changes. The actual oil change are pretty much the same, but what I'm going to be explaining is how to do it on a sport bike because of dealing with the fairings. So stay tuned if you need to see how to do an oil change. Alright, so in order to do this oil change on a sport bike, you're not going to need a whole lot of tools. I've got them laying out here. This one, you're not going to need it, but it comes in very handy. When you have those Phillips screws that go into a push pin, and you unscrew the screw and that comes out, but the pin doesn't come out, this guy is very handy to get under the head of that pin and pull it out. Not necessary, but very helpful. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, your Allen keys, a ratchet with 12mm socket on it, oil filter, and of course your oil. Now, because I am the way I am and I'm super cheap, I'm not picky on oil. It's an older bike. I go with Castrol high mileage, and actually I usually stick with Castrol, but I always pick whatever one's on sale. And this time it was the high mileage and the typical cheap Fram oil filter. I'm not paying twice the price for a K&N oil filter. It's gonna get thrown out in a month. So, not worth it for me. If I had a brand new bike under warranty and I had to maintain those warranty standards, then I might think of it a little bit differently. But a $0 value bike that I change the oil probably about once a month, once every month and a half. I don't care what the filter is. It's pretty much a paper frickin' filter no matter what. So the first thing I'm gonna take care of, personally this is how I like doing it, is taking off all the fairings that I'm gonna need off in order to do this oil change. So we're gonna do it step by step. So fairings first for me. So first fairing I'm taking care of, underbelly fairing. So that is going to be the 3mm Allen head right here. $4mm Allen head right here. Already starting to drop. There we go. 4mm right here above the kickstand. There we go. Back to a 3mm over here. And then next is going to be the two screws under the center of the belly pan, and there again it's those Phillips screws where you unscrew it, and then it's a like a push pin that you got to pull out. I'm a righty, so I'm going to go to the other side. Sure, I've said it before in a previous video, but to pull out these push pins, I like this trusty little tool here. Makes it real nice and easy. There we go. One. too. And there goes the underbelly. Now that the underbelly pan is off, next is going to be your mid-fairing. We're going to want the right-hand side mid-fairing to come off. So removing the right side mid-fairing. First step, flathead screwdriver, quarter turn bolt. Done. Next step, up here, 3 mil Allen head. All right, and next step, these 3 right here, also 3 mil. Okay, that should be all the bolts. Now, we just gotta get it off of there, take it out of this front side fairing. Okay, so that's it for the fairing removal, what we have to take off in order to do this oil change. The other thing you're gonna need is something to drain your oil into. Now, I'm lucky enough, we do a lot of the oil changes on all of our lawn maintenance equipment, so we have an oil drain pan. Now, if you don't have one of these, a nice little trick, which we use for some of the tractors that this doesn't fit under, is you take a windshield washer bottle, cut the side out of it, leave the cap on, slide it underneath, and the oil will drain out into this. And then the beauty of that is, depending on where you take your oil to recycle it or dispose of it, once this gets full and you're done with it, you take your empty jug, you take this cap off and pour it into your empty jug, return the jug, you've still got this for the next one. A little bit of home brew for you. All right, so now that I've got the fairings off that I need off, the underbelly, the right mid fairing, what I'm gonna do is start the bike, let it run for 2-3 minutes, let the oil heat up. You don't want it to get super hot. I always spill on myself when I pull out the drain plug. All you really want it to do is you want the oil warm enough that it gets viscous, so it's a little more liquidy. It'll flow a little better when you're draining it out. So I'm gonna start the bike now, let it warm up. Okay, so one quick thing before I get started on draining the oil that I forgot to mention. If you're doing this on a sport bike, you'll want it up on the center stand at the back. You'll want the rear tire up to keep the bike upright and straight. If you got a bike with the built-in center stands underneath, great, but sport bikes don't have that because of where the exhaust is routed and the underbelly fairing, there's nowhere for it to come out of. So I would suggest doing it up on the rear stand, simply for the fact that when you're refilling it later and you got to look through your window to see how much oil you've put in, and when you need to stop, you want the bike to be upright so that you can get the good view. Okay, so once the bike is warmed up and your oil is warm enough to drain, you're going to take your ratchet with your 12mm, break the seal on your drain bolt. Watch you don't burn yourself on the exhaust pipes. And then you're just going to drain into your drain. And there you go. Oil's draining into your oil pan. Let her drain out for a while until you see it not dripping anymore. Then you're going to take off your oil filter. We'll cover that next. Okay, so now that the oil has been drained, we got to take the filter off. So the filter is behind your coolant reservoir right here. And this is one tool that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video when I was listing what you will need. I had said you'll need a 12mm socket. To get this reservoir out of the way, you're gonna need a 10mm socket for this bolt right here. Okay, so that's the one thing I forgot on that. So we're gonna take that off now. So you just gotta get this bolt out. You don't have to disconnect the reservoir or anything like that. And under the reservoir, it's just sitting in this little track here on this bracket. So you just gotta lift it up and out, and then it'll allow you to swing it out of the way. And there's your oil filter right there, right behind it. So at this point, the bike is cooled off, luckily, because now the pipes aren't hot anymore, because you're gonna have to reach in there by hand and unscrew the oil filter. So I just need to unscrew it by hand. It's gonna get a little messy because there's still gonna be some oil in the filter itself. So sometimes so I would move my my oil drain pan underneath. But another good idea, now that the bike is cool at this point, is to put something over top of your header pipes here, because the oil most likely is going to drip on your pipes like it already is right now, because I cracked the seal and it's loose. So it's too late at this point, but I would put something over it. You can put a piece of cardboard, something like that, just to cover those pipes, because if you're planning on riding right after your oil change, it's gonna burn that oil and it's gonna smell like shit. So, taking the oil filter off now. And now that it's loose and the oil's draining out more, I'm just gonna let it drain. That way I don't take it off and make a mess. So I'm just gonna let the oil filter sit loose right now, let the oil drain out, then I'll take it off. So while the old oil filter is draining out the rest of the oil, I'm gonna prep the new oil filter to go in. So, new oil filter. We're gonna take our fresh oil. We're gonna almost fill the oil filter. And I say almost fill, normally when I'm doing an oil change on a car, I'm gonna fill it. But because it's mounted sideways on the bike, the second I put it sideways to get it on, it's gonna spill. So I'm gonna just put probably about half, maybe a quarter, between a quarter and half. Doesn't take a whole lot. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna rub oil around the seal. Okay, so there we go. This one is prepped to go in. Okay, so it looks like the old filter is done dripping. So we're going to just finish unscrewing it. There we go. Old filter off. And we're going to take our new one. Oh, actually it's still dripping from inside the engine, so we're going to let it drain a little bit more. Okay, so now it's time to put the new filter on. So here we go. Reaching in, make sure it's good and on the threads. Spin her on. And I'm just going to put it on as tight as I can with my hand. It doesn't take much to get an oil filter on and keep it on. And then plus you want to be able to take it off next time. Okay, so now, coolant reservoir goes back in that little bracket. There we go. And then we're going to put this bolt back on. Okay, so putting this bolt back on. This is also a really good time to check your fluids, especially at the beginning of the season. It's been sitting in the cold. So I'm noticing my coolant level's low and my rear brake fluid level is low. Okay, so now that the oil filter is back on, time to put the drain plug back in. Now this is an OEM drain plug from Honda, comes with a steel washer. If you get the one with a plastic crush washer, you're supposed to change the washer every time you pull it out. This one's metal, it's not a crush washer. So you're gonna put it in and hand tighten, and then one decent turn with the ratchet after that. So we're in. And there's your one turn. All right, now it's time to fill the oil. So we're gonna go right here. using a funnel so you don't make a mess. And you're going to fill until this window is decently full. And then you're going to start the bike for a minute, let it run, work its way through the engine, and then check this window again and fill some more. And start filling. Okay, so I've done the preliminary fill. If you look down at the window, there we go. We're on the full line. So now it's time to take the funnel out. Make sure to put your oil cap back on. And then we're gonna start the bike and let it run for a minute. Okay, so I've let it run for a minute. Oil window's empty. Give it a few minutes to settle and see where it's at after that. Okay, so still no oil in the window after a few minutes. And judging by the jug, I've only put 2.5 liters in. It takes 3 liters to fill it. So we're gonna take the cap back off and fill it some more. And this time around, now that it's circulated its way through the engine, once the oil window is at full, you're good to go. Okay, so after you get it to on the second time filling up and you have it to almost the full line, take your bike off the back stand, stand it up straight, and that way it'll be leveled out, and then you can see that almost full up on the back stand is full when you're down and level. And then once you've done that, take your funnel back out, put your cap back on, your bike's good to go. Well, you got to put your fairings back on, but then you're good to go. All right, so once the oil was filled back up in the bike, started it, made sure it was at a good level, then it was just putting the fairings back on and you're good to go. So that is how you do a nice, simple, basic oil change on a 2005 Honda CBR600RR, but it's pretty much the same on all sport bikes with full fairings. So I hope this can help somebody out. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, leave me a thumbs up. For now, Moto Moose out.